So Frida Baby marketing. Frida Baby, known for its sort of like irreverent, boundary pushing approach to parenting products, kind of faces backlash after it sort of put out marketing materials that paired baby products or infant products with a sexual innuendo. And I think examples included captions like, quote unquote, this is the closest your husband's gonna get to a threesome, using a rectal thermometer and quote unquote, how about a quickie, on a packaging uh, material. While the tone may have been intended as humor for stressed parents, I think some people online especially found the juxtaposition of sexual language with baby products off-putting, and I think it also sort of like sparked a lot of people calling for boycotts across parenting platform. The way sort of I kind of like look at it is that Frida has built its brand by being honest about parenting experiences, postpartum recovery, bodily fluids, and things that feel real but perhaps are under discussed. And I guess this campaign seems to shift that tone into a sexual humor tied directly to infant products, which, I mean, kind of obvious for some audiences. It's going to collapse the two contexts that don't naturally sit together. It seems like the earlier Frida campaigns resonated because they felt sort of empathetic and grounded in real experiences. But I guess this execution reads to some as more provocative than relatable. The difference is, kind of like subtle, but audiences tend to respond differently when something is designed to feel shocking rather than reflecting in reality. But I think there's also an argument that is to be made that this kind of campaign fits into a broader trend that we're seeing these days of just rage baiting, and I don't know how much of that is sort of driven is like the driven cause for Frida to go this way, where strong reactions drive visibility. So whether intentional or not, it can come across as it's optimized for attention in an environment where outrage often travels further than nuance, I suppose. And I guess it's also worth noting that parenting is a high trust category. So humor that might work in other verticals doesn't always translate the same way when it involves babies, which narrows the room for experimentation. And lastly, I would say is, come on, Frida, you're mixing two extremely disparate, and both of them are either end of the spectrum, into one sort of campaigning material at a time where the entire world, if not the US alone, is looking at a certain someone and certain files. I just have to say it.
No, so my biggest thing here is that it's not a fresh campaign. It's just like old ones, and people are
Yeah.
like finally, yeah, just like noticing. I think this is one of those things that is another one of those, like, you got to read the room. And right now, the Epstein files and like, pedophilia is like in people's minds right now a lot more than it was when they first launched these campaigns. So people are just like thinking about that more. So if anything is coming across as like sexual humor with children, it's just not going to sit well with people. It could have worked, like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago when it first like launched and just kind of like kept that brand voice. But now we're just like in different times. And I think that's kind of like what's happening here. Cause I'm sure like they're just like, whoa, how did this happen? Like we've been doing this the whole time. Like people thought it was funny. And now it's like, oh, cause the one that stands out to me is, because we bought this product before, is the one where you like suck the mucus out of your like kid's nose. And it's like, oh, like they make some like sexual innuendo about like sucking, right? And it's like, okay, sure, whatever. But like, it was the best product, to do this thing. And all parents kind of like recommended it. So honestly, I didn't like really pay attention too much to the marketing. So a lot of it was like, hey, you get away with these things because your product is so good. But yeah, now that it's like come out, I'm sure they're gonna like come out with like a, some sort of like apology. I hope they do make it, a little bit more heartfelt, and empathetic, than like, some of the other like, Apple Notes apologies that we get from companies. Cause like, I think just even being a little bit honest about like, hey, like, this is kind of like what was working for us, back in the day. And then now we just, didn't move quickly enough to kind of update our brands, would be enough. I did see that, one of the things that people are very calling out is that it's a lot of men that are like marketing and that are like, in the C-suite, right? If company culture, is telling you that this is kind of like how we speak about our product, then like, it's just kind of how you do that, right? Like the way that we see with the social media brands of like Ryanair and like Duolingo, right? It's like we kind of know what their personas are. This kind of felt like this is Frida Baby's persona, right? It just kind of like hit this wall of like a moment that like people are a little bit more sensitive to like, you know, child sexual abuse
Yeah.
notions than they were when they first launched. Um and then, I don't think that this, you know, is not like walk backable, you know, like where it's like
Yeah.
their brand
Yeah.
is totally ruined from now. They kind of just got caught up in the crosshairs of everything that's like happening. And I do think that like, you know, if they kind of like pivot and make the messaging to be about that, do like a quick, you know, rebrand of everything, you know, they'll be able to do that.
I don't think Frida has come on the record to say anything about this yet, have they?
Mm-mm.
Mm.
No, no.
That
Which is interesting
doesn't
because it's been a week now.
Yeah, that doesn't usually leave a good taste, it leaves a bad
Yeah.
taste in people among consumers.
Mhm.
But I guess, like, the lesson learned here is, like you said, Ryanair or, Duolingos of the world, it perhaps is very on brand for them to sort of like toe the line and how sort of sarcastic or how funny or what they want to say, but humor that resonates in one part of the brand narrative or one part of the brand category may not translate across every product or moment, especially when babies are involved.
Mhm.
um, and okay, maybe you were trying to drive more visibility, stand out because of humor, because there was this trend a couple of years ago that every brand wanted to be humorous and stand out and be
Mhm.
sarcastic and funny. But I guess it's a good lesson to, hey, let's take a step back, see what we're selling, see who our target audience is, see what's happening when we think about a national discourse, and keeping in mind the Epstein files and everything. That should
Mm.
we Okay, the
Yeah.
mistake has been made, but should we sort of like address this,
Yeah.
take down the materials? Why are they still on social media? I don't know. um, but just to sort of be fair, brands are known for pushing boundaries, and they operate within like implicit expectations that's kind of like shaped by their audience. But I clearly, people here are just not happy with what Frida had put out, and regardless of like the intent, how people again interpret your message ultimately defines its impact.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's that just reminds me of remember, you may or may not, I'm not sure if you're a parent, but the whole, "Go the fuck to sleep," like, thing where it was like that was, like, a moment, and I think that this is kind of a part of that moment of, you know, trying to meet this new, like, millennial parent, you know, audience and capture them with different marketing than our parents got, right? And I think now we're moving over more to the millennial cringe, authentic and like empathetic voice, probably because of everything that's happening, you know, politically. But I've been talking about this more in terms of and you mentioned this, you know, where they kind of stuck with like the rage bait marketing that, you know, has
Mhm.
become so popular. And I think we're heading to a moment where it'll be kind of like Monsters Inc., right? Where it's like it used to be the whole point was like you were scaring people, making them angry. And that was where you're getting your energy. And then moving over more to like the laugh floor where you're bringing joy and like happiness to people and like nostalgia and empathy and making them feel something that's not angry and not scary. And I think this kind of is showing that people want more of that from their brands now. That we've moved on from, you know, rage bait and having that be like the main strategy because now it just makes people angry. I have less room to be angry about a brand when I'm already angry about so much that's happening, you know, in the world and politically that like now if you're just going to piss me off, like I'm not even going to pay attention to you anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, let's move to a place that you're making people, experience joy and like this would be such a good thing with like baby products because parenthood you have that new identity of new joy, new, you know, new all that like there's so many good feelings that you can like fall into that you know the fact that they haven't actually come out and said like hey we made a mistake we're going to move in that direction is kind of now a bigger ding on the brand than like the actual marketing that they've done.